Definitive Jux Records was an independent hip-hop label based in New York, active from 1999 to 2010. Despite a relatively short run, its impact on underground rap was significant, though overlooked by many hip-hop fans today. This video will break down the label's origins, key figures, major releases, and eventual shutdown.
Hello, welcome to Brooklyn, New York. My name is El-P.
My name is El-P.
Yo, what up? This is El-P.
I'm El-P.
This is El-P.
My name is El-P. Ex-member of Company Flow, founder of Definitive Jux Records, producer of Cannibal Ox, Mr. Liff, myself.
El-P was born Janie Moline on March 2nd, 1975 in Brooklyn, New York. He is the son of jazz musician Harry Keys and Nan Dillon. So while music was in his blood, school wasn't, and he was expelled from 2 different high schools, one of which was St. Anne's in Brooklyn. In at least one case, the reason was as simple as refusing to follow the dress code. Despite 2 expulsions, Moline went on to study musical engineering at the Center for Media Arts in Manhattan, where he obtained his GED. Afterwards, he enrolled at Hunter College, but later dropped out as the courses didn't meet his interest. Moline was also fascinated by music production and would remix tapes with his boombox for his friends. His passion for music came by way of his father, who once more was a jazz musician that played piano at public bars and lounges. Following in his father's footsteps, he practiced playing piano, trumpet, and saxophone, covering famous songs. His love for hip-hop, though, came by way of friends and neighbors, who regularly played legendary acts like Run DMC, LL Cool J, and more on their boomboxes. He has cited Public Enemy and the Bomb Squad, Ice Cube, Kool G Rap, Boogie Down Productions, and Morris being some of his biggest influences. But he also loved the music of Queen as well as Talking Heads and David Byrne. Additionally, he took a lot of inspiration from movie soundtracks for films such as Star Wars and Blade Runner.
Film music was one of the things that got me into making music.
Really?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first piece of vinyl I ever bought was the Star Wars score. All of those sort of really classic film scores, you know, films like The Warriors and Blade Runner, and you know, things that where the music was so powerful that it really became another component.
Yeah, even Jaws, you know, it's like,
yeah,
you know what's happening with that donut.
As a teenager, he also interned for renowned music lawyer M. William Kraslovsky. He co-wrote the book This Business of Music in 1964. The book is widely respected and often called the Bible of the music industry because it thoroughly explains the workings of the business. Remember this internship, as it will be important later in the video. Company Flow formed when Moline met DJ Leonard Mr. Len Smith, who was hired to be the DJ for Moline's 17th birthday party. They became friends and formed Company Flow as a duo in Queens in 1992. Their first single, Juvenile Techniques, was released in 1993 on Libra, a small label based out of Long Island.
So color me the chubby nigga with nuts like RoboCop wreck shop. Born a freak, I'm like unique, you're subliminal. Think like a criminal, minded but the effort. Yes, I'm pulling mad heifers.
They found their way onto Libra through the assistance of filmmaker, record producer, photographer, and recording artist Darren E. Johnson, better known as Antex.
And we were just hanging out with people up there, and through him I met this dude named Antex, who had a record on Tough City Records, which is a legendary shitty record label. And
be careful, you might just get sued for saying that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, but put out kind of cool shit, but just was a crazy label. And him and this guy who worked, the accountant who worked there, which is insane, who, for anyone who knows about Tough City, started a little indie record label, and they you know, the guy won't, you know, signed me or whatever he wanted to put up. So that's how that's how it happened.
The track was a rousing success in the underground and caught the attention of several noteworthy sources, most notably DJ Stretch Armstrong and Robert Barbido Garcia of Stretch and Barbido. Armstrong and Garcia were instantly impressed with the group and praised the duo repeatedly during their formative years. They also gave the group airtime and played early demo recordings by the group on the radio. Jamie noted though that while Libra was useful in getting the song released, they had locked him in a very harsh and unfair contract. He was a naive teenager at the time and signed to the label without thinking. According to him, the label denied the group ownership of their masters and publishing rights, and withheld half of the net profits from their releases. Additionally, the group didn't want to be committed to multiple releases under the same label.
Why independent?
Like I said, I had gone through a situation where I was putting out a record with somebody else. I was young, I was like 17, turning 18, and the whole thing just went badly, you know? And there was a time at that point where I just felt like, holy shit, because of someone else's bad intentions, or because of like bad blood, I may not be able to do what I want to do in my life. You know what I'm saying? Because they were threatening, you know, we're going to shelf you forever. We got you under contract, blah, 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 all this shit. You know what I'm saying? They put my record out. They never paid me for it. You know, just crazy shit.
It was due to this frustrating situation with Libro where Jamie got in touch with Kraslovsky, as mentioned earlier. This internship helped Moline find a loophole in the contract, and he was able to escape the label.
What happened was I was in a really I didn't read the contract. I was under this group management contract, and it was one of those classic like Bible contracts, and I didn't even read that shit. I was just like, let's go. Yeah, and as so many kids do. And then when it fell apart and I got scared that I was going to be trapped in this thing because they really had me over, it was really classic fuck you in the ass contract shit. And not in the good way, you know, not in the way that, you know, like, you know, I had this book called This Business of Music. And it was written by this guy, William Kraslovsky, who was like Bruce Springsteen's lawyer and Chuck Berry's lawyer and like Ahmad Jamal's lawyer. And like, he was a famous industry guy who had written this book that was a tome. If you wanted to learn about the music business, which I did, that was the book. And I looked him up because I needed to figure out how to get out of the deal. So I went to his office and I said, here's this deal that I'm in. I don't know what I got myself into. If you can help me get out of it, whatever you need, I just want to learn. I want to intern here. I want to understand. Because I don't know. I obviously don't fucking get it. I obviously don't know anything about how people operate. It was such a shock to me that anyone would even think to like lock a kid down in the contract. I was, and I knew that I needed to do this for my life. And so he was like, all right, like, fuck it. You want to work for free for me for filing papers and shit? I'll take a look at your shit. And so that's what happened. I did. He did get me out of that thing because I had signed the contract when I was a minor. So he was just like, hey, don't even worry about it.
Right.
I was around him and I got to soak up a little bit of his perspective on this, and it resonated with me.
He originally went by the initials El-P, short for Lyrical Punisher, but later changed it to what it is today, EL-P, during a freestyle session after spotting a box of El Producto cigars.
No, you know what? Here's what it was. Originally, I was like, this was like at like 15. I was like, I'm the Lyrical Punisher. and then after a while, I was like, that's pretty silly. But I've got all these songs saying LP, and then I was like, well, how can I make this a little bit less corny and a little bit less nerdy? And then I was
LP, lyrical. Okay.
Yeah. So it was LP, and then I was like, well, and I was literally just freestyling, and there was a box of fucking El Productos on the desk, and I just said El Producto. And I was like, all right, that's it. That's cool.
It's a good rap name, bro.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not bad.
From this point, his competitiveness grew as he continued to hone his skills through live freestyles and battles.
But between that and 1996, it was mostly just trying to learn how to rap better, trying to learn how to record better, going up to, radio shows and freestyling and getting my rep out there and just, becoming involved in the culture that was happening in New York City of people who were unsigned and blah, blah, blah. As I got older, my ideas shifted, I changed. I always followed my heart in terms of the way that I wanted to think and the way that I wanted to create. And I just think it would be a waste of time for me to try and recreate something that isn't natural anymore. It's like, look, I'm not the battle MC anymore. I spent 10, 15 years of my life being that dude, and then I made a record. Because this is like before records were out. This is like when I was in the whole, early to mid 90s underground scene and just battling and coming up in that whole scene and coming up in New York City.
In 1995, a Libra employee named Justin Ingleton took a shine to the group and joined under the name Big Just.
So how did the unit of company flow that people are familiar with come into being then?
Well, I mean, me and Mr. Len, who's my DJ at the time, who's the DJ for Company Flow, we had already all known each other and were hanging out. Just actually was friends with the guy who started the label and worked with the label, and then he quit the label to work with me on the music. So, it just happened not long after we did that first song. I kind of pulled him in, so.
After Just joined the group, the now trio struggled to find a major label willing to sign them and agree to their terms. Loud Records chose to sign more relevant acts like Mobb Deep, and Tommy Boy Records were uninterested with the group's work. It was at this point where a 19-year-old El-P would meet his future business partner, Amaechi Uzoigwe. Uzoigwe at the time was an amateur video production assistant. On the side, he managed punk and hip-hop acts on Ozone Entertainment. El-P met Uzoigwe at a West Village diner to review a record deal. Amaechi was impressed by Maline's business savvy for his age, and was even more interested when he heard the group's music and learned more about the Brooklyn MC's history.
We get people to say yes that way. So for videos, we started meeting a lot of recording artists, and on one video shoot was a rap band from Brooklyn, and underground, signed to an indie, or we thought. And, you know, they asked me, they were like, "You sound pretty smart. Would you mind reading our record deal? Because we haven't signed it yet." And I'm like, "Me? Like, okay, sure, why not? You know, let's do it." So I decided to dive into that side, and I'm like, okay, I think I was a philosophy major. I can get these things, you know, concepts. And they asked me if I'd meet with the record label, which I agreed to do. And I'm like, well, again, why not? And and I arranged to have a meeting at some diner in the West Village, walked in, looking around for record label people. I don't see anybody that looks like a record label person. I do see a young teenager in a booth, young white kid, with that looked very hip hop. I'm like, that might be the label, right? Yeah. Turns out it was, and it was like a 18 or 19-year-old version of El-P. Of Run the Jewels, who, you know, fast forward, and since then we've
the meeting of a lifelong collaborator.
It really was.
Not to ruin the story, but
no. It was amazing, and from that point, and he was already in a group called Company Flow that was starting to do their thing. They were, you know, not certified underground legends now, but we started a relationship then. I'm like, this kid is 19 and is so smart. Like, how does he have it all figured out at such a young age? Like, I was blown away by him. And then I heard his music, and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, you guys are onto something. And they were taking off on the underground at that point.
Despite facing industry challenges, Company Flow temporarily established a home on Official Recordings. Through Official, they released their debut 8-track EP, Fun Crusher.
Just the style is infinite, so pass me the rock. Got the same burner as a kid down the block. Bought it for me off-duty cop, getting over yo and stick you with the felony. Just to fill a quota.
Sources vary on the release here, but for most accounts, the EP was released on June 10th, 1995. The EP sold over 30,000 copies despite only being available in double album format. Many of the tracks off the EP were finished demos from the Stretch and Bobbito recording sessions. The first single to come from this EP, and the first single from the now completed trio, was 8 Steps to Perfection, Vital Nerve.
Rugged like Rwanda, don't wander far or get trapped up. Quick to rush the spot like baby urine, get mopped up. Tags that spray the hall with rap ever saw. Organized graffiti lectures and can't control. I'll do the simple shit, strike harder than Hopper. L the maladjusted MC, Fun Crusher. Massive, I'm signed for my condition. Automatic, onslaught, connect, thoughts get jostled at your position.
8 Step still stands as arguably the group's most iconic track, where both El and Just drop incredibly strong and iconic verses. At the time, Just and El were working for Tower Records by day in the mail order department. They did this to earn money to pay for recording sessions at night. They also used Tower Records' mail order to distribute their music. Stretch and Bobbito were blown away by the completed track, and repeatedly played it on their show WKCR 89.9 FM. Through the EP's success and radio exposure, the group built a strong underground following, leading to a European tour in 1996, even before signing to a label. Despite this though, Company Flow still aimed to sign with the label on their own terms. In 1996, they quickly secured a deal with Rawkus Records, where executives James Murdoch and Jarrett Meyer agreed to their conditions. After signing, Uzoigwe became the group's manager and was a huge help for the young group. There, they expanded the Fun Crusher EP into a full-length album by adding 11 additional tracks. This album would become one of the most pivotal and widely celebrated hip-hop albums of all time, Fun Crusher Plus.
Okay, ease back before I make position to squeeze. The head burner cooking, emanate funky rapper violence, please. I pump kinetic with unintentional balance. Wanna battle, one of us has ended up in God's palace.
Released on July 22nd, 1997, Fun Crusher Plus was a hugely innovative album for hip-hop at the time. The mainstream at the time was moving in a glitzier and more commercial direction. Lyrically and topically, the most popular songs on the radio spoke about money, women, power, and fame. Artists and labels like Puff Daddy and Bad Boy were dominating the charts and the radio. There wasn't a lot of room for more traditional hardcore hip-hop on the radio at the time. But Koflo gave us scene the middle finger and stuck to their guns. Fun Crusher Plus is a 19-track album of nothing but gritty rhymes and futuristic boom-bap beats, largely produced by Maline himself. Topically, Just and El stuck to personal tales and offered challenges to any MC who wanted to mess with them. The album art was created by Queens-born artist Matt Reed, better better known by his professional name, Matt Do. Reed also created the artwork for Organized Confusion's Stress the Extinction Agenda album in 1994. Sadly, Reed took his own life on December 12, 1998, but his work was not in vain as he took part in the creation of one of the greatest rap albums of all time. The album has lots of standout songs like Last Good Sleep, for example, which interpolates lyrics from Kool G Rap and DJ Polo's iconic track, Streets of New York.
Upstairs, I cover my ears and tears. The man downstairs must have drank too many beers.
At night, I cover my ears and tears. The man downstairs must have drank too many beers.
This haunting track finds El-P detailing the abuse he and his family endured from his stepfather, Scott Bivens, including one specific near-fatal attack on his mother. El has mentioned that the song was deeply important to him at the time, as it eventually helped him reach a point of forgiveness towards Bivens after years of intense but justified hatred.
Yeah, that was a big song in my life. It was a breakthrough for me as an artist, I think. I wrote about it because it happened.
Okay.
I wrote about it because I was witness to, the abuse of my mother, and very violent abuse. And this was I had never attempted to write a song that really meant anything. Company Flow was really
You're having fun.
It was fun. It was saying the rawest shit. It was playing with language. It was one-upping each other. It was like trying to make someone's jaw drop with coming up with a witty thing. There was some political strain. There was a little bit of fuck you rebellion in there involved, but that was about as evolved as it got. And
Right.
when we were doing the album for Jared over there for Raucous, when we were taking the EP that we did and turning it into a full-length album, hence Fun Crusher Plus. We knew we had about 2 more songs that we wanted to do, and we each wanted to do a solo jam, and we talked about it, and we were like, well, let's do something that kind of means something to us and our lives. We literally talked about it, and I think that this was a song that I was trying to write for a long time and I never did.
Another reason why the album was so influential was due to the sci-fi aesthetic that the production took, along with some of the nerdy references the MCs laced into the lyrics. These aspects of the record would be pivotal to the birth of subgenres like backpack rap and indie rap. El-P was one of the names that gave birth to the idea of a quote-unquote hip-hop nerd. Upon initial release, Fun Crusher Plus is one of the most widely celebrated rap albums of all time. As of 2022, the album has sold roughly 200,000 copies and launched Raucous as a name to look out for in the hip-hop sphere. Prior to signing Company Flow, Raucous was an independent label with financial struggles and no clear musical direction. Fun Crusher Plus was their first full-length album that put Raucous on the map as the home for gritty, traditional, hardcore hip-hop. It was thanks to CoFlow that Raucous was able to sign other powerful and legendary names. Mos Def and Talib Kweli of Black Star, Pheromone to Organized Confusion. Even names such as Kanye West and Eminem wanted to sign to Raucous, but both were ultimately turned down. To this day, Fun Crusher Plus still sees its fair share of praise, with many rap fans having it in their top 10s. After the release of Fun Crusher Plus, CoFlow appeared on Raucous' big compilation albums, Soundbombing, Soundbombing 2, and Lyricist Lounge Volume 1. Soundbombing 1 was released on October 14th, 1997. Lyricist Lounge Volume 1 was released on May 5th, 1998, and Soundbombing 2 was released on May 18th, 1999. These records were widely celebrated and caught the ears of other great MCs, as well as celebrities outside the hip-hop sphere. Company Flow themselves were part of the indelible MC supergroup, which also included the Juggernauts and MC J-Treads. Together, they dropped tracks like Wait and The Fire in Which You Burn, the latter being a Company Flow track featuring Breeze Bruin of the Juggernauts and J-Treads that landed on Fun Crusher Plus. The supergroup formed in 1997 but disbanded the following year, only recording a spare few songs together. This was not only due to creative differences, but difficulty finding recording time. In 1999, Company Flow and El-P specifically would feud with soul of the Oakland, California rap supergroup, Anticon. This feud will be covered in depth in a later video. The success of Fun Crusher Plus led to another European tour for the group in 1998, which lasted 2 months. However, just parted ways with the group right before the tour due to ego clashes with El-P and creative differences.
Man, it was insane. We kind of broke up right as it was about to pop.
Okay.
We had a Beasties tour lined up, you know what I mean? It was like, it was about to pop. And what happened is basically that we just couldn't fucking stand each other after a while.
Just being around each other all the time.
It just was, I was really young. Just was older than me. He was young. When I think about it now, shit, when I met him, he was 25, I was...
Right, you look at a 25-year-old like, damn.
Yeah, and I was like 17, you know what I mean? And I don't know, man, what happened. It kind of broke my heart, to be honest, at the time. I really thought we were going to ride this one into the sunset. I think that there was a combination of things, but we just got stressed, man. You know, it was just a lot. A lot of stuff started happening, moving really fast for us, all of a sudden, and I don't think that Just really wanted it. You know, and I say this respectfully. Like, I know the dude still. You know what I mean? Like,
Are you still in touch with him?
I haven't spoken to him in a few years, but like, you know, whenever we do speak, it's all good. And you know, I got love for him. I looked up to him like an older brother for a long time, and you know,
He's an incredible MC.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know, there's just a difference, man. I just don't think he really was into. He just wasn't really into all the fucking razzmatazz
Well, I mean,
and running around and all that shit. And it was like, and also, you know, I was a little arrogant prick, you know, who butted heads and was stubborn, and I had my vision, and I wasn't, and you know, we just clashed, you know.
The group had already broken down internally, making the tour a final farewell. To add insult to injury, the group had already begun working on their second album. While it was disheartening, Just ultimately left both Rawkus and Koflo on good terms. Coppola was then back to being a duo, with El and Len left to carry the name. The group's sophomore effort, Little Johnny from the Hospital, was released on June 15, 1999. This was a complete departure from Funk Crusher Plus, as this was an instrumental record with no vocals. While Just was a part of the group, the album was originally titled The Pain Cave. However, after Just left, Len and El decided to scrap the concept album because they didn't want to do it without Just, feeling that it would be incomplete and inauthentic. Instead, Coppola released Johnny as a means to fulfill their contractual obligations with Rawkus. Both Rawkus and fans expected a lyrical follow-up, but Coppola released an instrumental album instead. Rawkus was unhappy with the change, which contributed to the breakdown in their relationship. By the year 2000, the relationship between Coppola and Rawkus had deteriorated due to financial mismanagement and creative differences. El and Len felt financially mismanaged, leading to distrust and the eventual separation. This led to a bitter end between both camps, with El specifically going on record to diss Rawkus after leaving.
Sign of Rawkus, I'd rather be mouth-fucked by Nazis unconscious.
This lasted even up to 2007, where El released a very strongly worded rant about his issues with Rawkus on his blog. As with 2025, the feud has subsided, it seems.
And even, you know, my perspective on Rawkus has softened. I mean, I had a little bit of, I was pissed off with Rawkus when I left, but then again, I was in my early 20s, you know, so it's changed a little bit. I then went on to do my own record label for 10 years, and now I kind of get how hard it is. And it was like, you know, so I don't quite have the same, like, you know, fire and brimstone sort of like, but, you know, I don't have that really for much. You know, I kind of, it's like, you kind of gotta be pretty important to get the angry guy these days.
After disbanding Coppola and leaving Rawkus, El-P both produced and rapped with other artists in the industry, steadily rebuilding his reputation to close out the 1990s. Now outside the clutches of Rawkus, El was back to his independent grind. Amaechi and him teamed up and formed the Def Jux label in 1999. Their distributors were Capitol Music Group and The Orchard. The name Def Jux is an amalgamation of Def from the legendary label Def Jam and Jux being short for jukebox. This was done to reference El's desire to create a label that was both influential and diverse in its musical offerings. After dealing with Rawkus and Libra, El and Uzoigwe knew what they wanted to do with their label, to ensure that signed artists would succeed and would be treated fairly.
But I mean, for us, it's more a lifestyle decision, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have our shit, we do our shit, we hire the people we want to hire, we promote it the way we want to promote it, we put out the singles we want to put out. And it's more like solidarity, you know what I'm saying? Like, we just run our shit. No one can tell us anything.
One way of doing this was by covering overhead costs and offering half of all earnings on all physical sale royalties to said musicians. They promised that all who signed would never have to worry about compromising their artistic integrity, as the label was a strong believer of artistic freedom. It seemed like a dream come true for anyone interested in joining the music industry. Malin and Uzoigwe didn't want to be pigeonholed into any specific subgenre or style of hip-hop. They just wanted artists to be authentic and express themselves however they wanted to. At the time, Def Jux was adamant about staying away from quote-unquote the mainstream and instead focused on being unique. Def Jux was built to be a home for artists who wanted success but were only performing at small concert venues and received little radio play on college stations.
My philosophy about it was this: there is money and a career out there for people who do shit that is not mainstream. And there is a way, if people put some faith and some dough behind it, to bring the attention to what is happening in the music and not craft the music to what is happening in the mainstream. I just had the idea that it would be really cool to open it up and become a part of something bigger than and work on stuff that's bigger than just my personal ambition.
It was a daunting challenge, but Amaechi and Maleen were determined to make a successful label on their own terms. The label released over 30 albums, only a handful of which will be covered in this video. Around the year 2000, Len and Jamie decided to part ways. This left El-P to carry the company flow name by himself, and he was on the search for new signees for his label. One of the first signees to the label was Boston MC Mr. Liff. Maleen met Liff through another Boston MC, Esoteric, in 1998. Esoteric and Liff were both up-and-coming Boston MCs, which is how they knew of each other. Esoteric knew of El-P through company flow and looked up to him. He even sent El-P a demo tape in the early 90s, leading to a cordial relationship between the two. At that point, Seamus, Esoteric's birth name, and Janie were on good terms and respected one another as artists. Interestingly, Liff was also signed to Ozone Entertainment, Amaechi's old label, at one point, and they both stayed in touch after Uzoigwe moved on to other endeavors. The first release on the label was Liff's Enter the Colossus EP on November 14th, 2000. The EP was 7 tracks with features from another Boston MC, Acrobatic, who later joined Liff's group, The Perceptionists, alongside Fax One, who also produced the EP alongside El-P. Still on the search for new MCs, El came across the supergroup Addams Family. The group was formed in 1995 and was spearheaded by Vast Air and Vote Omega of Cannibal Ox in New York. At the time of its inception, the group had already boasted an impressive 35 members across the tri-state area. They built their reputation through open mic nights and ciphers in the streets of New York. According to member Critic One, the name was coined by Vast Air, who habitually gave titles due to the freestyles he dropped. When Canox met El-P, the 3 MCs immediately hit it off due to their shared competitiveness and creative hunger for collaboration. At this time, El-P also linked up with producer RJD2 through mutual connections like Ohio MCs Blueprint and Copyright. Aesop Rock and El-P coincidentally met each other through the Addams Family. Additionally, both Maleen and Bavett's, Aesop Rock's surname, had the same publicist at the time, who showed El-P one of Ace's CDs, which led to his signing. By 2001, the label had gained a sizable roster, leading to a group release, Def Jux Presents, on March 20th, 2001. The compilation album was 7 tracks long, and the only feature outside of Def Jux MCs was Ill Bill. The album performed surprisingly well, with the lead single DPA As Seen on TV peaking at number 36 on the Billboard Hot Rap Songs chart. This was only the beginning though, as things immediately picked up after, with one incredible release after another. Each new release saw more eyes on the label and drew more signees, such as Cage of Eastern Conference, Kamutao of SA Smash, who El was already friends with, along with Battle MC CY Walls, a childhood friend of Mob Deep's Prodigy, and Murs of the LA group Living Legends. A quick cover of each notable release from the label. The first is Cannibal Ox's The Cold Vein, released on May 15th, 2001, Aesop Rock's Labor Day, September 18th, 2001, Various Artists Farewell Fondulum, October 30th, 2001, El-P's Fantastic Damage, May 14th, 2002, RJD2 Dead Ringer, July 23rd, 2002, Mr. Liff Eye Phantom, September 17th, 2002, Aesop Rock's Bazooka Tooth, September 23rd, 2003, El-P's High Water, March 9th, 2004, Murs and Ninth Wonder, Murs 316, The Ninth Chapter, March 23rd, 2004, The Perceptionist, Black Dialogue, March 22nd, 2005, Cages, Hell's Winner, September 20th, 2005, Various Artists Definitive Swim, February 27th, 2007, El-P I'll Sleep When You're Dead, March 20th, 2007, Aesop Rock None Shall Pass, August 28th, 2007, Delta Funky Homo Sapien, 11th Hour, March 11th, 2008, and lastly Dizzy Rascals Maths Plus English, April 29th, 2008. Throughout the schedule, they also released 2 additional Def Jux Presents group projects. To save on time, most of these won't be covered in depth. Before covering any of the albums though, it's important to note that Def Jux was sued by Def Jam around 2001 to 2002 for the name similarities. They settled out of court, with El changing the name of the label to Definitive Jux, but for the sake of this video, it will still be referred to as Def Jux. Cannibal Ox's The Cold Vein was a landmark splash in abstract and experimental hip-hop. Vast and Vortal traded clever and sharp bars over futuristic production courtesy of El-P himself. Next was El-P's solo debut, Fantastic Damage. This was a highly anticipated release given all the work he put in with Company Flow and The Cold Vein. Needless to say, he did not miss. The record received rave reviews, reached number 198 on the Billboard 200, and sold 15,000 copies in its first week. Many cited it as a look into a post-September 11th America. However, El-P had stated that he recorded most of the album before the 9/11 attacks happened. Following this was the Weathermen's The Conspiracy mixtape on July 3rd, 2003, and Aesop Rock's Bazooka Tooth. The latter featured the single We're Famous, a diss track featuring El-P aimed at Esoteric and the Demigods. An entire video will be made about that feud later. It's going to be the largest project on the channel, so stay tuned for that. That video will also shed more light on the Weathermen tape, as it wasn't released on Def Jux despite several Juckies appearing on the record, but on Eastern Conference Records instead. It was around this time too where Cannibal Ox, specifically Vastair, felt that the label wasn't doing right by him. To his account, El-P reportedly censored lyrics, with him even saying that Vastair used Respectable Gentleman too much, which Arrington, Vastair's surname, took offense to. El-P also allegedly edited several Kamutao lyrics, which frustrated other label mates. Additionally, Vast felt he had to chase payments and needed lawyers just to get cut a check, leading to distrust. Both Vast and Vortald wanted to branch out and work with other producers like MF Doom and Madlib, but felt that Def Jux limited their artistic growth. For all these reasons, Vast took his leave from Definitive Jux. In 2009, he wrote an online statement sharing his side. This is interesting because in 2003, there were rumors about Canox disbanding. This is something even Def Jux signees have addressed, like Murr specifically.
By the way, Canox is not broken up. It's just a rumor.
That held people over for a while, especially when just a few years later, Canox dropped their live album, Return of the Ox, live at CMJ in November of 2005. Rumors began circulating about a possible second album. However, in 2007, El-P finally responded to these claims, saying he doubted if a new Canox album was coming out anytime soon. A few years after that, via his Facebook page, El-P announced that he would never produce for Canox again. Around this time, Vortal Mega also left the label, but the reasons were never specified. It could have been because he took Arrington's side in the feud with the label, but some fans argued that he left due to alleged personal issues with drug abuse, bipolar disorder, and depression. Some sources have even claimed to have seen Vortal Mega homeless and begging for money in the streets, but this is all speculation and hearsay. El-P's High Water was a strange release. This was a collaboration with the blues series Continuum, a jazz group spearheaded by pianist Matthew Shipp. The oddity of this record was that it was a total departure from hip-hop and was instead a new jazz album. It was actually released through Thirsty Ear Recordings because it was part of the label's blues series. It was an album El-P was invited to participate in, not one he necessarily initiated himself. Additionally, El felt the record wasn't a stylistic or structural fit for Def Jux. But surprisingly, the album peaked at number 46 on the Billboard Independent Albums chart and received mostly favorable reviews.
His perspective was that jazz needed to not just stay in its own lane. Jazz needed to commingle with other types of musicians and other types of music thinkers, and creators. So they started doing collaborations with different types of producers, some from the hip-hop world. They did one with Anti-Pop Consortium. They did one with me. So basically, it was just them trying to throw themselves into the hands of someone else and see what the result was.
El even got to work with his father, Harry Keys, on the project, which he was excited about. Keys appeared as a singer on the 7th track When the Moon Was Blue.
So I hit my dad up, who's a jazz pianist and singer, who I had never done anything. I'd never worked with, never done anything. And he kind of retired from music, and I asked him, I kind of tricked him. I said, because also I kind of looked at it like maybe an opportunity to fit my father into this situation.
Interesting.
So I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm doing this record, and I want to have these guys basically cover some standards. I want to hear what their version of a standard would be." Because I knew that they were essentially, like I said, anarchists. When it came to, they didn't fucking look at sheet music. When I presented them with sheet music that my father had picked, he had given me 3 or 4 choices that he sang. So he sat at the piano and he sang them for me. He sent me what they were, and I got the sheet music. And I ended up picking this one. Long story short, I took some of the songs that he had picked, and I got the sheet music and I brought it in. And I handed it out.
In 2007, Definitive Jux teamed up with Adult Swim to release Definitive Swim, a free compilation showcasing the label's roster. This collaboration with Adult Swim will also be important later in the video. El-P's second album, I'll Sleep When You're Dead, was another slam dunk for the ex-Coflow member. El changed up his rapping and production style greatly, borrowing more from electronic music and changing up his flow. It was a greater success than his debut in terms of sales and success, reaching 78 on the Billboard 200. One of the lead singles, Flyentology, featuring Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails, was one of his biggest hits.
I haven't been walking a humble path. I know I cursed at your name and then laughed. I know I founded a name to bang calf. The servant to the groveling frame is paying cash.
The track even landed on an episode of Breaking Bad years later, in Season 4, Episode 4, Bullet Points. Another interesting release was Del DeFunky Homo Sapiens' 11th Hour. This was his 5th studio album. Del was already an established and seasoned MC that El was aware of and respected, even during the Company Flow days.
What MCs are you checking for, like today?
Oh man, motherfucking MCs. I like Juggernauts, Jay Trez, High and the Mighty, Arsonist, Nonfiction, Science is a Life, Living Legends, Hyro, Godfather Don, Sir Menelik, Mos Def, Talib.
He gained notoriety for writing with his cousin, Ice Cube. 11th Hour was announced and partially recorded back in 2004, but wasn't officially released until March 11th, 2008. Upon its release, it sold about 5,800 copies in its first week and debuted at 122 on a Billboard 200. It featured frequent collaborators, including members of Hieroglyphics, as well as the legendary Ladybug Mecca of the group Diggable Planets. As previously stated, this album has been in the works since 2004. Del's own label, Hieroglyphics Imperium Recordings, was swamped at the time. The label was dealing with new releases from Souls of Mischief, as well as the Hieroglyphics, in addition to working with new signees. Del met El-P in the year 2000 for Del's 4th studio album, Both Sides of the Brain.
Here we go. Up jumps the outcast. sever the connection. My mostly overconfident acquaintances pull levers to the airtight potions of fear that I drip sicken. And rise out of my shell to tease sick of bedridden MCs till they fear living.
Del crashed at L's crib for a few days while working on the track and was blown away by Maline's production, so he made sure to keep in touch. Finally, it's also worth pointing out that UK MC Dizzy Rascal briefly signed to the Def Jux label around this time. This is important as Rascal is credited as a pioneer of the UK grime scene in the 2000s. Dizzy signed a short-term deal with Def Jux to break into the US market as he admired their independent hustle.
I don't link up with Def Jux. That was a more of a management getting involved. Was looking for a deal in America because Maths in English came out in England like a year ago. But because I weren't going to be in America, there weren't really no point in putting it out, so we just put it out on iTunes to download. But now I'm here. I was looking for a deal. Def Jux was the best label for that because they're independent hip-hop label. They understand the ins and outs of the game. You know what I mean?
He re-released his third studio album, Maths Plus English, on April 29, 2008 in the States. It was initially released in the UK on XL Recordings on June 4, 2007. The Def Jux re-release featured 3 bonus tracks, Ghetto, Driving, and an El-P remix of the song Where the G's featuring UGK. Dizzy, Del, and L all performed together at South by Southwest in 2008 in Austin, Texas.
So tell me a little bit about the bands that you chose to play the showcase this year.
Well, Del the Funky Homo Sapien. We just put his record out. He's a legend. You kind of don't really have to explain.
Yeah.
And if you do, then
you need to do your homework.
And you just sort of say he's Del. He's a legend. Yeah. Dizzy Rascal was a new artist that we just signed, and some of his people are on stage right now. He's about to get on, but he's a British artist, grime artist, really, really huge in England. Not as huge yet here, but on the verge, going to be.
Getting an overseas artist to join his label, even briefly, was a huge breakthrough for Maline. At this point, Def Jux had solidified itself as one of the greatest labels in all of hip-hop history. They were releasing widely celebrated albums, pioneered rap sounds, and even brought overseas artists to join them as well. Things seemed to be going nowhere but up for the label. Until they weren't. On May 25th, 2008, Kumutal passed away at age 30 due to lung cancer, 2 years after being diagnosed. This was a tremendous and saddening loss, not just for Def Jux but for the music scene at large. The death of a close friend and collaborator led to increased tension between label mates. It caused a lack of motivation for many of the members to release bodies of work. This led to some subpar releases that aren't worth covering in depth other than Cage's Depart From Me, released on July 7th, 2009. Camus' skills as a musician extended well beyond rapping and included singing and producing as well. Some of Tao's most notable production feats include Cage's Ballad of Worms and Left It To Us. He was also a part of several groups, including the Weathermen, SA Smash with MC Metro, MHZ with Copyright, RGD2, Jackie the Motormouth, and Tage Future, and Nighthawks with Cage. Smith, Kamutao's surname, was also a member of the duo Central Services with El-P. They had one EP together, Forever Frozen in Television Time. It was supposed to be released on Def Jux on July 28, 2005, but was shelved for unknown reasons. On July 28, 2010, it was released as a free download on the Def Jux website. The label's last hurrah was a 4th installment of the Def Jux Presents series. The compilation consisted of 12 tracks and was met with lukewarm reception. In February 2010, El-P announced that he would be stepping down as creative director of Def Jux and that the label would be put on quote-unquote permanent hiatus. El-P felt the sound he helped create became too homogenous, which he didn't want. Furthermore, he wasn't making enough money to keep the label afloat, and he wanted to focus more on his artistic endeavors.
What people don't really understand is that, and it did become that, it almost became homogenous. It almost became that we created a thing that separated us a little bit from the larger.
Was it like
audience
alternative?
of hip-hop? Yes.
Would you coin it, for lack of better terms, as almost like alternative backpack?
I would accept
underground.
I would accept all of those bullshit terms,
right?
But I would never coin them. And that's the thing that I don't think that people, and I think people understand now, but I don't think that people really understood is that I'm just a kid who grew up in New York City. Like the reason why my shit sounds like some of the shit that you like is because I grew up on the exact same record.
Oh man, I mean, it was something that presented itself in the last, couple of years. Mm-hmm. We did Jux for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly. A lot of it I've blocked out of my head in terms of detail. But I just remember that it started getting harder to pay the bills. All that shit is real. All that shit is true, and it's dry and it's boring. But I mean, again, the story's out there, but it's the same story that a lot of other record labels have had, unfortunately. no matter how many times you hear the story, you're not prepared for when it happens to you, which is that you grew bigger, but now you're making less money. So you don't know how to keep the shit afloat. And that's the business part of it. And that ended up being something that ultimately is the reason why the store closed, because we couldn't live up to our end of the bargain anymore. We couldn't keep it afloat. But then there was a parallel thing which was going on, which was me, which is that I was in a bad place. I was wrecked from the Camus shit for sure. It had taken a lot of toll on myself, on my relationships with a lot of the people around me, just in terms of it being a cloud. Just a lot of unhappiness, feeling like I was not able to even have some time to do what I wanted to do creatively. Like I had started the label with all the best intentions, but it was taking me a long time to make records because I was spreading myself really thin and I was investing myself not only in terms of my time, but also emotionally in other people's records and shit. And it was hard too. You know, I wasn't necessarily ready to be the dude that people were like, fuck you, I'm not happy. And I'm like, fuck, here we go. You know, like, and if you try and do it correctly. You know, you try and do what you can to be honorable about it. And even in the face of your fuck ups. And it's like, yo, you're not happy. I'm not happy either. Straight up, no doubt. It was just less and less happy for me with the whole shit.
Additionally, the passing of Kamuta led to a lot of hostility between the Jockeys. The homogenization he spoke about was due to the 2000s being consumed by music piracy and leaks, alongside the music industry's aversion to digital audio options, both of which were detrimental to the monetary success of indie labels. Programs such as LimeWire and Napster were introduced, which made music sharing and freebooting a lot more common and easier. Once more, El-P also wanted to focus on his own music career. He was a musician first and a businessman second.
Well, you started Def Jux in 1999, and last time we talked, you were saying how you were kind of not a businessman by nature, but by necessity. How's that working out? I mean, you put out a lot of really strong records in 2007, including your own, and 2008, you're already off to a great start. So.
Thank you. You know, it's the same thing for me. I mean, I just do it because I love music and I love working with people that I like. And I don't really like the business side of it because it's business. It's not my nature.
At the time the hiatus was announced, fans could still buy albums and other merchandise through the website for some time. But at the time of this video's making, the site is no longer available. But the label's output stopped after the release of Kamutao's posthumous debut album, King of Hearts, released on August 17, 2010. The album was completely arranged by El-P and was released in tandem with Fat Possum Records. It consists of 16 tracks with no features and was met with fairly positive praise from fans and critics alike. But Camus' death still haunted and frustrated many jockeys and other related names. The release of a posthumous album didn't help. With all of that came the end of one of the most legendary and underrated hip-hop labels to ever exist. When Leader asked about his decision to step down, El-P said he had no regrets and felt the label had run its course.
I was just like, you know, this is great and I'm glad I was a part of this, but the time for me to be able to be this person that's needed for this gig right here, I couldn't do it anymore. It wasn't right for me, for my mental health. It wasn't right for my music. I couldn't make enough music. And I was dealing with grief and I was dealing with stress simultaneously. And also I was broke.
After Def Jux shut down, the Jockeys went their own separate ways. A$AP Rock linked with Slug of Atmosphere and joined Rhymesayers Entertainment, where he still resides at the time of this video's making. There, he released some of the best and most essential hip-hop of the 2010s and now 2020s. With Skeleton on July 10th, 2012, The Impossible Kid on April 29th, 2016, Spirit World Field Guide on November 13th, 2020, Garbology, a collaborative LP with producer Blockhead on November 12th, 2021, Integrated Tech Solutions on November 10th, 2023, and his latest album at the time of this video's making is Black Hole Superette, released on May 30th, 2025. Murs joined Warner Brothers briefly before going to Tech Nine's Strange Music in 2014. There he released 3 albums before going independent in 2019 due to fulfilling his contractual obligations. His high profile led to him being recruited by Hip Hop DX for their series The Breakdown, a series he hosted where he gave his thoughts on the culture. As of 2021, he no longer works with Hip Hop DX, but they're still on good terms as they cover Murs' music and news. Murs also has a long-standing duo with Slug of Atmosphere called Felt. They formed in the year 2000 and have a total of 4 albums released as of this video's making. Their latest album was released in 2020. In 2015, Mr. Lift inked a multi-album deal with Mellow Music Group. There, he worked with MCs like Open Mike Ego, Odyssey, Quelly Chris, and even the legendary Cool Keith. He's released several albums there as of this video's making, including a new Perceptionist album in 2017, Resolution. He still resides there today as of this video's making. Cage's career after Def Jux was covered in the Cage and Eminem beef analysis. Definitely check it out, as it's one of the best videos on this atrocious channel. The link will be in the description. Cannibal Ox returned on March 3rd, 2015 with Blade of the Ronin. The album was released under iHip-Hop distribution. The album was met with mixed reviews, as it was nowhere near as groundbreaking, cohesive, or essential as the duo's debut. A lot of this had to do with no production from El-P, as mentioned earlier. The beats this time were mostly handled by one Bill Cosmic. Fast and Bortle were also at very different points in their careers for this album, and they clearly weren't as focused, sharp, and hungry as they were on their debut. They also released Airplane on January 1st, 2025. It was another mixed bag with little to no album rollout. Big Just left Company Flow before Def Jux founded, and never officially joined the label. Afterwards, he pursued solo work in underground projects, maintaining his influential but low-profile presence. He co-founded the now-defunct Subverse music label in 1998, but after a short but solid run, the label shut down due to lack of funding. They were close to being bought out by MCA Records, but Subverse wasn't making enough money to make a smart return on investment. Additionally, the September 11th attacks had a big impact on the label, dampening the spirits of many signees, leading to the eventual shutdown in 2003. In the latter point of the 2000s, Just hinted at the possibility of a new co-flow album in some interviews, but while the statement did spark excitement and debate, there hasn't been any new music from the group as of this video's making. After his departure, Mr. Len remained active in the underground scene, producing and collaborating across various projects. He founded Smack Records, also referred to as Dummy Smack Records, but there isn't much information on the label beyond that, including its active years. According to El-P, the three are still on good terms to date, and have even reunited for some live shows. The group briefly reconvened and performed at the Albir Mirror Festival on July 23, 2011. They supplemented the legendary trip-hop act Portishead. Their final show as a group as of this video's making was at Coachella in 2012. After formally disbanding Def Jux and stepping down as creative director, El-P dropped some sick feature verses with the likes of Das Racist, Mr. Motherfucking X-Wire, and 8-Track, among others. In 2010, Malene also began dating comedian and musician Emily Panic of the phenomenal Handiclap band. This was right around the time Def Jux was winding down, but before it went officially on hiatus. The two married in October of 2018 and are still together at the time of this video's making. Then of course he teamed up with Atlanta's Killer Mike for their very successful duo, Run the Jewels. They've dropped 4 of the best rap albums of all time thus far. They connected through Jason DeMarco, the creator of Adult Swim. DeMarco has always been a hip-hop fan and was a fan of both MCs, introducing them to one another. Both were already established legends in their own rights, with Mike already being a solidified name due to his work with the likes of Outkast and Jay-Z. Upon meeting, Mike and Jamie instantly bonded over their love of Ice Cube and his debut, America's Most Wanted. Jamie and Mike were also mutual fans of one another's work, but the idea of working together didn't cross their minds until DeMarco stepped in.
And as a producer.
So who connected you guys? How did it happen?
Jason DeMarco.
Jason DeMarco.
Our friend, mutual friend from Adult Swim. I mean, he's a creative director up there. And I've been
Just
working.
a good dude, too.
Great person. We were individually,
And
we
he's
had
tapped
become
in.
friends.
He's aware of what's going on, too.
Super fan. Just a fan of music. He knows everything about music. He can tell you everything about metal. He can tell you everything about hip hop. He can tell you everything about electronic music. He's a fan of music. He has nothing to gain by doing what he does, but he individually hooked up with me and Mike over the years and did music with us because he had the power. Basically, he was secretly siphoning off money from the corporation that he's working with to provide artists that he liked. To do jams. And it was his sort of like
give back.
Sneaky little give back.
Well,
yeah,
I was having
The idea of forming a group together really started to gain traction after El produced the entirety of Mike's 5th studio album, Rap Music, released on May 15th, 2012 on William Street Recordings. Interestingly enough, Rap Music was released the exact same day as Cannibal Ox's debut, which was another album entirely produced by El-P. As shown, both MCs felt this collaborative El-P was supposed to be the second coming of Ice Cube's debut. For his debut, Cube, a West Coast MC, worked with the Bomb Squad, a New York-based production group known for their work with Public Enemy. While not exactly one-to-one, Mike, a Southern MC, worked with Jamie, an East Coast producer. 1 week after the release of Rap Music, El released his 3rd album, Cancer for Cure. This marks his final solo record as of this video's making. Like Rap Music, Cancer for Cure is also 12 tracks long and featured Mike as a guest rapper, just as Rap Music featured Jamie as a guest MC. Cancer for Cure was very important to Malene, as it was a means of therapy for his drug use and was an ode to Camus Tao. He was addicted to prescription drugs as a coping mechanism for personal issues, including the death of Camus Tao. Both albums received widespread critical praise and were considered to be among the best hip-hop music of the 2010s. The success of their records led to a joint tour with Brooklyn's Mr. Motherfucking X-Wire that same year. The 3 MCs traveled all across America, ending the tour in Washington, D.C. The tour was a massive success, leading to the formation of Run the Jewels. The name of the group came from the LL Cool J song Cheesy Rap Blues off of his 4th studio album, Mama Said Knock You Out, released on September 4th, 1990.
Run the jewels, run the jewels, run the jewels.
The line was also sampled on Ice Cube's The Product off of his Kill It Will EP released on December 18th, 1990.
Give me your car, run your jewel.
Then later used by RZA on Wu-Tang Clan's Wu-Tang 7th Chamber Part 2 off of their debut Enter the Wu-Tang The 36 Chambers released on November 8th, 1993. Run the Jewels has seen massive success and has influenced the culture and genre greatly. RTJ's songs are catchy and memorable, but contain substance and speak on real-world issues. Their music has landed on various soundtracks for movies, TV shows, and video games. Most notably, their 2016 single Legend Has It appeared in a trailer for 2018's Black Panther, one of the highest-grossing movies of all time. The track also appeared on the soundtrack for 2017's Baywatch, starring Zac Efron and Dwayne Johnson. Their track Nobody Speak with DJ Shadow also landed on the soundtrack for the Netflix original series Ozark. Mike even made a cameo in one of the episodes. Additionally, the song was used in an advertisement for the video game Far Cry 6 in 2021, and those are just a handful of examples. There are more. Their most recent album together is RTJ4 as of this video's making, released on June 3rd, 2020. But even past that, they've continued to drop features as both a duo and as individuals with the likes of DJ Premier, Westside Gunn, Billy Woods, and more. On June 16th, 2023, Mike released his long-awaited 6th studio album, Michael. El-P featured on and co-produced one of the lead singles, Don't Let the Devil, released on April 20th, 2023. Definitive Jux will forever remain one of the most important labels in hip-hop history. Their legendary roster and output helped create a sound and style that completely revolutionized the genre, as well as delivered countless classic records for hip-hop fans of all stripes to enjoy. Despite some occasional hiccups, the label was a successful endeavor overall for both Moline and Uzoigwe.
My name is Aesop Rock, I hate cops, I'll make them stop. With the brain train won't ever drop. I'm like interlocking sectors with the vector that slides off a collision course. Your vision's the source. When people can only make pancakes, the man breaks and top of beat breaks and earthquakes. Keep going until the earth shakes. Fuck it, from the birth date all the way to the death date. I gotta check the weight up on the freeway with the he say and the she say. All I wanna do is be LL Cool J mixed up with a little bit of Prince. Ever since I was a kid, wanted to be Big Daddy Kane.
Check it out, check it out. My style is original, other cats have been cloned. I think this cat got fucking Tourette's syndrome. Yo, I make so much green it's scared of Hulk. Yo, check it out, I'm about to turn into a werewolf because it's the full moon, but I consume rappers in a minute. Yo, I'll talk about them all night, but their family's worse. I call their father a faggot and he hit me with his purse.
Come on, LP, hit him with the fucking sentences. Neither this style nor deleted. Kids step with a virginal alarm system. Did some EL-productive, born cold fission. Off the top of the dome, it's like first mission. Take them from the breath and break them down to the scholastic GED scholar. Top dollar, top billing, audio 2 nice chillin'. Gizmo and milk, audio 2 diamonds. Cut them on the back, motherfucker, the beat's gone, so.
That's what we do. We just sit around and freestyle. That's how you make music, basically.
You don't write? You don't write a lot?
No, of course we write, but you know.
Yo, all I know is
yeah, man. I love it when people freestyle.